All right, welcome back to the Footy Den, and what a week of finals footy it was. Honestly, if it had everything. We had Collingwood showing they're still a powerhouse, Geelong looking every bit like premiers, Hawthorn surviving one of the great finals comebacks, and Gold Coast delivering a Hollywood ending over in Perth. Upsets, controversies, nail biters. Week 1 reminded us all why September is the best time of the year. Let's quickly rewind. Adelaide had the home crowd texting his 300th and all the hype, but Collingwood were just too strong. Geelong took care of Brisbane and looked scary doing it, with the Lions midfield completely shut down. Hawthorn looked home against GWS and nearly threw it all away before steadying when it mattered most. And then there's Gold Coast, their first ever finals win, and they did it in the most dramatic fashion imaginable. Down goes Fremantle by a single point in a game that had everyone on the edge of their seats. But that was just week 1. Now it gets even bigger. Week 2, semi-final time, do or die, no safety net. 2 sides will move through to the prelims, while 2 seasons will end right here this weekend. This is where legends are made, where pressure either builds diamonds or completely breaks a team. I've got my predictions ready, and trust me, these are going to be huge. Adelaide facing Hawthorn in what should be a brutal scrap, and then the all-Queensland showdown, the coup clash, Brisbane versus Gold Coast. You couldn't script it any fucking better. So, let's dive into the semi-final predictions. And as always, I want to hear from you in the comments. Who do you reckon survives, and who do you think is going home with their tails between their legs? Now, before we get into the semis, I've got to be honest with you guys. My finals predictions last week were absolutely atrocious. I only got one right, and that was Geelong, and the rest, well, absolute carnage. Finals footy chewed me up and spat me out just like it does to teams that aren't ready for the pressure. And because of that, I've had to rethink things. My Premier's pick has changed. I don't think it's Adelaide anymore. They just didn't show me enough against Collingwood. Too many turnovers. Here's the thing. If they fixed those issues, they could still surprise me, and they could still surprise the footy world. Finals have a way of throwing up shockers, and Adelaide are definitely capable of putting it all together. So yeah, my predictions took a beating in the first week of finals, but that's the beauty of September finals footy. Anything can happen. And with that being said, let's get into the first semi-final, Adelaide versus Hawthorn. And this is tonight. So Adelaide versus Hawthorn, this is massive. Adelaide finished top of the ladder. They are minor premier. They've been the most consistent side all season. And on their home deck at Adelaide Oval, they should be tough to beat. The crowd will be loud, the atmosphere will be electric, and everything points to the Crows being favourites. But last week reminded us, nothing is guaranteed in finals. Adelaide were really sloppy, they coughed up the ball too easily, and their forward line looks flat without Isaac Rankin. That's the guy who gives them that spark, that X factor. They badly missed it against Collingwood. Without him, they just didn't look as dangerous inside 50. Now, the good news is that Josh Rochelle, I believe, is coming back. Now, he brings energy, unpredictability, and that goal sense that can turn a game. Now, Adelaide need to be firing on this, but it can't just be about one or two men, one or two players. The whole midfield needs to step up. They were beaten around the contest last week, and you can't win finals footy if you don't win the ball. Now, Adelaide's mids have to set the tone, dominate clearances, and give their forwards clean supply. And then there's the defence. Now, they've got to be sharp. No cheap entries. No letting Hawthorn's forwards get easy looks, because if they're not switched on, the Hawks will bloody punish them. They will. And I'll say this. I think Riley Thilthorpe could be the wild card. He kicked 2 goals last week, I think. He's had flashes this year, and you can see the talent is there. Now, finals are about players standing up when the heat's on, and I reckon he's due. I reckon he's due to have a really good game. Now, if he gets going early, clunks a few big marks a couple, it could swing the game Adelaide's way. And Tex Walker, well, I reckon he'll play another great game as well. Now, Hawthorn, they're the danger team. They were in complete control against GWS and almost drew it away. But What stood out was their composure late. Under all that pressure, they steadied after GWS comes back by 42 points. And yeah, Hawthorn were shook a little, but they were able to steady they were able to steady. And that's the mark of a team that believes in themselves. That belief is dangerous in finals. Jack Gunston is always a threat. He's been doing this for years. He knows how to find goals when it matters. The arrogant, cocky Jack Ginnivan is another. Loves the big stage, loves getting under people's skin, and you know he'll have moments that get the Adelaide crowd rattled. But the player I'm really watching is Lachie Meek. Now, he's become absolutely crucial for Hawthorn, in my opinion. His ruck work this year has been brilliant, winning hitouts, giving his mids first use, and getting around the ground to take mark and use the ball well. Finals are won and lost to stoppages, and if Meek gets on top, Hawthorn's midfield will feed off that. Adelaide can't afford to get beaten in the clearances again like they did last week. So here's where I stand and land. Adelaide are home with the crowd, with their season on their line. I just don't think they lose 2 weeks in a row, to be honest. Now, the midfield has to respond like Saligo. The defense has to bring the pressure, and I reckon Thilthorpe will have a big one. Hawthorn will throw everything at them. Gunston, Ginnivan, McDonald will cause headaches, and Meek could easily be the game changer. But I think Adelaide will hang on and cement themselves to the prelim. Now, Crows by a couple of goals in what should be a brutal high-intensity semi-final. So yeah, I'm picking Adelaide for this one. Now to Brisbane versus Gold Coast semi-final. And mate, this is huge. The Q clash in September, a knockout final at the Gabba. You couldn't script it any better. Why am I rhyming now? Now, Gold Coast are riding the wave of their first ever finals win. Brisbane are bruised and battered and everything's on the line. Beating Brisbane at home is never easy, but the Suns have done it before. I think back in was it round 20? They didn't just beat them, they absolutely annihilated them by 66 points. The stats in the game were insane, plus 10 inside 50s, plus 11 clearances, plus 54 uncontested possessions. That's not a fluke, that's domination, and the Suns will take massive belief from that heading into this one. Season-wide, the numbers show just how close these two sides really are. Brisbane have been a bit more consistent with inside 50s, but Gold Coast have laid more tackles. Now that tells me they're bringing in the pressure, Gold Coast. And in finals footy, that pressure wins you games. Now the big story, Lachie Neale. Brisbane losing him with that calf injury is really big. He's their clearance machine, their midfield general, and without him, they lose their biggest weapon around stoppages. That puts the heat on guys like Hugh McCluggage, Jared Berry, and even Dane Zorko to stand up. If they don't, Gold Coast midfield could run riot. And just look at what the Suns did against Fremantle. Ben King stood tall up forward, clunking big marks and finishing his work. Took Miller, led from the front, his intensity, his leadership. That's finals footy. And Matt Rowell, what a beast he was, smashing into contests, tackling like his life depended on it. They just wanted it more. And Rowell gave his side repeat chances. And then there's David Swallow, the veteran, cool as you like, stepping up in the clutch to seal that 1 point win, which we all thought it was a goal. That's the stuff you remember forever. If those guys fire again, the Suns are a massive chance. King presenting, Miller and Rowell winning the midfield, Swallow steadying the ship, and the rest of the team feeding off that energy. It's a recipe for another upset. Brisbane still have weapons. Charlie Cameron can turn a game on its head. Cam Rayner can impact with bursts of brilliance and dive. Archie's going to have to stand up big time. But without Neale, it feels like the Lions are one soldier short in the fight. The new guys will have to step up, the reserves and all that. So my tip, I'm going with the upset. Gold Coast to shock Brisbane at the Gabba. It won't be easy. It'll go down to the fucking wire. And the Suns look so good right now. They've got momentum. They've got belief. And I reckon they pinch it by less than a goal to keep that fairy tale alive. Controversial, But yeah, this is how I feel. So yeah, there you have it, my tips for the semis. Adelaide has scraped through at home in a tight one, and Gold Coast to pull off another upset and knock Brisbane out in front of their own crowd. They won't go back-to-back this year. Finals footy is brutal, it's unpredictable, and that's why we love it. But now it's over to you guys. Who are you tipping this weekend? Do Adelaide hold strong at the Adelaide Oval? Can the Hawks surprise us? And what about the Q clash? Are the Suns about to shock Brisbane again, or do the Lions bounce back without Neale? Oh, this should be interesting. Let me know in the comments. And as always, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and join me for more finals action. We're at currently 5 subscribers at the moment. It's only going to get bigger from here. And we've still got the prelims and the grand final to come. Strap yourself in because September footy has only just started delivering. Off season, I will also create footy content as well to just keep the ball rolling. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Enjoy the footy this weekend.